Hello, everybody. I just wanted to explain to you how to do a mock draft with the Fantasy Pros platform, helping and guiding you in your draft picks through a live mock draft against other people. Uh, I have set up and gone into the ESPN platform. I went into the mock draft room. I selected a mock draft, and I've now joined it, and I'm now waiting for that time to run down before it launches. And you'll see I'm in the fourth position here of my draft. Meanwhile, over here on the Fantasy Pros site, I'm on fantasypros.com. And in order to do a mock draft, you have to go to Draft Assistant. I know there's no vernacular there that talks specifically for mock draft until you hit this page. Now, once you're here, you hit Add Mock Draft and you choose ESPN Mock Draft Lobby. Once you're here, we're we'll be adding in our ESPN login information and the URL. But before we can do that, we need this room to launch. And you'll notice right down here it says Light Draft Application. You have to wait for that link to appear. If you launch the regular ESPN draft room, it will not work. So you launch that, and once that loads up, you can see the light room appears, and this is a much lighter version of the same ESPN mock draft. Everything works the same way except for there is no sound. So please pay attention to that because it's really easy to forget or to lose track of where you are in the draft, especially if some auto picking is going on and it's skipping ahead quicker. So once you've opened up this window, copy this URL by just doing a right mouse click or a Control C. Go back over to your Fantasy Pros page, which is right here, and log yourself in to the ESPN waiting room. So if you have if you're doing this the first time, this will all be blank information. You have to put in your user ID and password, and then just go ahead and paste in what we copied earlier and click Connect to the mock draft lobby. So once you do that, Fantasy Pros will load up a connection to your ESPN mock draft. It'll ask you if you want it to enable Copilot. Basically, this is that if it gets down to 10 seconds, it will automatically, the Fantasy Pros platform will automatically do a selection for you. For this sake of this exercise, I'll say no thanks. That means if I run out of time, Yahoo, or ESPN in this particular example is going to make the selection for you. If we had enabled Copilot, and we can still do that up here, if we had enabled Copilot, then the Fantasy Pros platform would decide the best player for us 10 seconds before our pick is due. All right, so now we're here, and you can see that this is my roster. Here is the Fantasy Pros platform that's telling me, what is the best player to take with the position in the draft that we have left. Now, I like to choose this option down here, and I'll have to wait for this constant refreshing to stop because it's trying to connect. We'll let it do that first with 5 seconds left here before the draft launches. So we're back over here. I just toggled back to this particular window to see where we are in the draft, and it's just now beginning. Team number 1 is on the clock, and they have 40 seconds to make a selection. Let me just go back over here and just explain a couple of things. I'm going to move to the pick predictor. I like the pick predictor. It tells me the chances that a player will be selected in the draft before my next pick. And so I can kind of plan a little bit. There is in one round, I'm on the clock right now. You'll see that the 3 picks have already come in. These 3 players were the first 3 players selected, and now I can pick any of the other players that are left on the board. And I'm going to enable Copilot here and show you how that's different. By having enabled Copilot, I can draft on ESPN directly from here. And I'm going to go ahead and pick LaShawn McCoy before 10 seconds expires because the system would have picked him anyway for me. So there you can see that we've now made our first selection. Here's my team. And here's the all of the information that's coming in automatically from the Yahoo system. I'm sorry, I keep saying Yahoo, but ESPN system. And I can also choose here the summary view, which I prefer. I like to see the average draft. I like to see the expert rating next to it, the average draft position, what the experts recommend for the player to be taken. 40% of the experts think, or in this case, AJ Green, 51% think he's the right pick for this position. And and then you of course you draft him if it was your position. You'll notice that when we were doing this, there was no chime. You didn't hear any noise. That's one drawback of using this light draft application. There is no sound. And because there's no sound on Fantasy Pros, there's nothing there's to alert you with audio chimes as to it being your pick or it's your draft or you're on the clock or anything. So you really have to pay attention to this part. How many turns till your next pick? And, when you're picking, you of course can go over here and look at this and follow along on this bar from ESPN. But, I'm spending most of my time in here looking at this platform, looking at these different views, trying to see who are the top rated players at each position still available to draft. And I'm looking for things like the differential between this particular draft position, this value-based drafting score, and this one. I mean, obviously there doesn't appear to be a lot of difference between Devontae Freeman and at that moment DeMarco Murray, but there's a huge drop-off after that between Freeman and Howard. So, if you're needing a wide receiver in one place and there's a difference of 3 here, but you need also a running back and there's a difference of 28, Freeman is the better pick. So I think this is all you need to know in order to be able to do your draft and how to sync it with ESPN in order to have a mock draft live running through Fantasy Pros to have the best possible draft that you can. I hope that's useful, and I'll be doing a second video for this on how to sync with Yahoo.